Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be drafting this stylish underbust corset blouse with a stylish waistline that you can see on your screen. So I'll start by taking my points. The first point is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 13 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches, and the last point is the length of my blouse, which is going to be 24 inches. So you can make this into a dress or into a blouse. Okay, so after doing that, I went ahead to roll straight lines across all the points. The next thing I did was to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches, and I took my neck width, which is going to be 3 inches. I indicated the 3 inches with a dot on the shoulder line. I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll slant from there into the neckline area. After doing that, I'm going to take half of my round armhole circumference, okay, to get my chest line. Another way to get your chest line is to divide your bust circumference by 6, and you add 1.5 inches to that measurement. I'll make sure I have the same 8.8 inches that I have on the shoulder line. I have it on the chest line. After doing that, I'll roll a straight line across like this. The next thing I'll do now is to connect from the chest line to the shoulder slope. So since I have 8 inches on the chest line, I'll just connect into a straight line like this. So the next thing I'll do now is to place my tape on the straight line, and I'll find the middle point. Half of 8 inches is 4 inches. I'll mark 4 inches. On that 4 inches dot, I'll go in by half an inch, as you can see me doing. On the bust line, I'll place my tape and I'll take my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also indicate that with a dot. So I'll connect from my shoulder slope to the half an inch, and from there to meet the dot that I have on the chest line. So the next thing I'll do now is to take my darts. To do that, I'll place my tape on the center front, and I'll mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'll mark 4 inches on the blouse length, on the waistline, on the under bust line, and on the bust line. I'll connect the 4 dots into a straight line. To take in my dart, I'll be taking 0.75 inches on the waistline. I'm doing that on both sides of this straight line. After doing that, I'll connect straight to the bust line, as you can see me doing. And on the blouse length, I'll come up by 2 inches. I'll indicate the 2 inches with a dot, and then I'll connect from the waistline down to that 2 inches. After taking in my dart, this is what I have. So remember, I took 3 inches for my neck width. For the depth, it depends on how deep you want it to be. I slanted from the 3 inches all the way to my bust line. That is how deep I want the chest line, the neckline to be, sorry. On this shoulder area, I went ahead to divide what I have left into two. What I have there was 5 inches. Half of 5 inches is 2.5 inches. So I marked the middle and I connected from there to meet the dart leg. The next thing I'm doing now is to tighten the under bust area. To do that, I'm using half an inch for the tightening. So I am marking 0.75 inches on both sides. So regardless of the darts that we already have, go out by whatever you want to use to tighten your under bust. Okay, after doing that, I went ahead to connect into a straight line. From there, I'll connect back to the bust line like this. So after doing that, guys, I'll go ahead and start placing my measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. On the under bust line, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. And on the blouse length, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll connect the dots together. So I've not added my stitching allowance yet. The next thing I'll do is to connect from the bust line all the way to the under bust line using the curved part of my roller. After doing that, I'm going to take my side dart. To do that, I'm going to go down by 1.5 inches, which is the difference between my front waist and my back waist. Okay, so I'm going to connect from that 1.5 inches to meet the darts on the bust line like this. Okay, so I'm going to cut this part out. So what I'll do to close up this dart, first of all, is to open the shoulder line. As you can see, make sure you don't cut it out completely, just open it up a bit, and then you open up the bust side to make it easier for you to close up your dart. Okay, so after cutting, sorry, I'm going to cover the dart up, as you can see me doing. So once you cover it up and it's not blending, use your marker or your pencil to just blend everything together. So in case you don't understand what I just did, I took my side dart. So the distance between your shoulder, from your shoulder to your waist at the front, is always different from the distance between your shoulder to your waist at the back. For my front waistline, it is 16 inches and my back waistline is 14.5 inches. So the difference is 1.5 inches. That is what I used to take in my dart. So I'm going to connect from the under bust line to the bust line. You see where my arrow is showing you, that is where you should connect to, not the armhole line. If you connect to the armhole line, it's going to gape on the armhole line. So connect to the bust point. I later realized my mistake and I did it. Okay, so just connect yours to the bust line, not the armhole line. So the next thing I'm doing is replacing that tiny dart that we have on the chest line, and I added my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I replaced the dart of 2 inches and I added 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the hip line, I replaced the dart and I also added my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll go ahead and connect all the dots like this. After connecting the dots, this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to create the stylish waistline. To do that, I'll go down by 4 inches from my waistline. Okay, I will indicate the 4 inches with a dot. I'll use the slanted part of my ruler to connect from that 4 inches to the other side of the hip line. But before I do that, I'm going to fold in my darts, okay, to make sure that everything is sitting together. And then I'm going to place this part of my ruler and I'll connect all the way to the other end. Okay, you need to fold in your darts so everything aligns. After doing that, this is what I have. So what I'll do now is to go ahead and cut. So pay close attention so you know where to cut. So you can also decide to tighten the yoke area. All you have to do is to take half an inch on both sides of this yoke and then you connect it back. Make sure you don't connect it to the chest line. Just connect it back like you see me doing, and then you are going to cut out. So after cutting, guys, this is what I have. So at this point I realized my mistake, so I placed the yoke back on the under bust bodies. So what I'll do is to connect from the under bust to the bust line. I know where my bust line is. The bust line is the second line on the pattern paper. So I'll just connect it, because if you connect it to the armhole area, it's going to gape on that area. So just slant it to the bust line, not the armhole line. So after connecting, I'll just go ahead and cut out. So this is what the under bust part and the yoke should look like. Okay, so after doing that, guys, this is what I have. What I'll do now is to join these two pieces together. I'm going to hold them down with my tape. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is to draft out the back. To do that, I've already gone ahead to mark out 1.5 inches, which is going to be my zipper allowance, because I want zipper for the back. I'll go ahead and start taking my point. The first point is distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. Next point is distance from my shoulder to my waist point at the back, which is 14.5 inches. So this is very important. Okay, measure the distance from your shoulder to your waist at the front and measure the distance from your shoulder to your waist at the back. It should not be no more than 2 inches. Okay, so to know the length of the blouse for the back, I'm going to place my tape on the front waistline and I'll go down to the length of this pattern paper. Okay, that is what you use to determine the length for the back. Okay, so after measuring, what I had was 8.5 inches. So I just went ahead to mark the 8.5 inches after the waistline and I ruled a straight line across. So I have the bust line, the waistline, and the blouse length. The next thing I did was to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I went down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'll slant from there into the neckline area. Remember, the neck width was 3 inches. We are still using the 3 inches for the back. So the next thing I'll do is to go down by 8 inches, which is my armhole depth, and I'm going to make sure I have the same 8 inches on the chest line. I'll connect like this and I'll rule a straight line across. So after doing that, I'm going to take in my dart. To do that, I'll take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'll mark it on the bust line, on the waistline, and on the blouse length, and I'll connect into a straight line. So on the waistline, I'll be using half an inch on both sides. Okay, if you're bigger, you can use 1 inch on both sides. Okay, after connecting, I'm going to go up by 2 inches from the blouse length, and I'll connect all the way like this. So the next thing I'll do is to determine the back neckline. I'll be using 1.5 inches by 3 inches. 3 inches is the neck width. I connected to the zipper allowance area. I'm going to divide what I have on this straight line into two, and I'll connect to meet the bust point. After doing that, I'll start placing my measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the bust line. I'll add my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart and I'll add my stitching allowance. On the blouse length, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll also add my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll connect the lines together. So if you want a yoke to for the back, you can go ahead and take out the yoke, but then make sure you confirm what you have for the back and the front. Make sure it's the same length. I just did that. Okay, so once I fold up this 1 inch dart, the front and the back is going to be the same. So I want yoke for mine, so I just went down by half an inch on the center back, and I connected to the armhole area, as you can see me doing. Then the next thing I did was to tighten the zipper area. I took half an inch away from the waistline, and I connected like this. Okay, so this is what I have for the back. If you want the same waistline for the back, all you have to do is to go down by 4 inches like we did for the front, and you're just going to connect back to the other side of the hip line. So this is how plain I want the back to be. You can decide not to even cut out any yoke for the back, but the most important thing is the back length and the front length should be the same. So I just went ahead to cut. After cutting, this is what I have. I'll go ahead and cut out the yoke. Okay, so label your pattern paper. For this dart, you can just fold it over, or you split it open, and then you join your fabric your pattern paper back together if you don't want to cut out two pieces when cutting on your fabric. So after cutting, this is what I have for the front and what I have for the back. So the next thing we'll be drafting out is the sleeves. So the first thing I'll do is to go down by my actual sleeves length, which is 22 inches. So I'm going to mark 22 inches, and I'll rule a straight line across. So 22 inches is my long sleeves length. I'll rule a straight line across. So I added extra 4 inches on the base of my sleeves. I want to extend the sleeves by 4 inches. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to place my tape, and I'll go down by 13 inches, which is the distance from my shoulder to my elbow is 13 inches. I'll rule a straight line across the 13 inches point. After doing that, I'll go down by 4 inches. If you're a bigger person, you can do 5 inches. I went down by 4 inches, and I also ruled a straight line across. Next thing I'll do is to slant from the center of my sleeves to the this line, as you can see me doing. After doing that, I'll place my tape on that slanted line, and I'll mark the middle. What I have here is about 9 inches. Half of 9 inches is 4.5 inches. I'll indicate the 4.5 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'll do like a C and D. On the upper part, I'll do like a D, and from that center, I'll go down like a C, just like you can see me doing. After doing that, I'll place my tape on the C and D, and I'll mark my round armhole circumference divided by 2, which is 8 inches. But I went ahead to add 1 inch to it, making it 9 inches, and I marked the 9 inches. On this elbow line, I went ahead to place my round elbow circumference divided by 2, and I added my stitching allowance. So what I'll do is to connect from this 4 inches line all the way to the 13 inches line like this. That is the dot that I have on the 13 inches line. So you can cross check to make sure you have your round sleeve circumference on that 4 inches mark with your allowance. Okay, so after doing that, on this my actual sleeves measurements, I'll place my round wrist circumference divided by 2. I'll indicate that, and I'll add my stitching allowance. So I'll connect from the 13 inches line all the way to the 22 inches line like this. After doing that, you determine how wide you want the base of the sleeves to be. For me, I'm just going to place my ruler, and I'll connect in a slant like this. So because I don't want it to be too sharp, I'm going to go up by 0.75 inches. I'll indicate it with a dot, and then I'll use the curved part of my ruler to just connect it this way. After connecting, guys, this is what I have, so I'll just go ahead and cut. So this is how to cut out the sleeves that you can see on the thumbnail. So after cutting, go ahead and confirm the measurement that you have on the cap of the sleeves. Okay, make sure it's the same thing as your round armhole circumference divided by 2. So after doing that, guys, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like, leave your questions in the comment section. I'll see you in the next one.